Welcome to the Authentic Change Podcast. I'm Mike Horn, your host, and this podcast is for leaders and coaches who need and want fresh perspectives on what it means to live and to lead authentically. You're a leader who wants to make a difference, but sometimes you feel stuck. You know there's more to life and to leadership than what you're currently experiencing. It can be tough to figure out how to grow as a leader. You might be reading all the blogs and books, but it still feels like you're not making progress. You might even be feeling like you're doing everything wrong. On Authentic Change with Mike Horn, we interview experts who share their insights on how to live and lead authentically. Our guests are trendsetters in building great leaders, teams, and organizations. We provide fresh perspectives on what it means to live with purpose and authenticity. Welcome to this episode of the Authentic Change Podcast.
Welcome to this episode of Authentic Change with Mike Horn. I am absolutely delighted to have in our virtual studio today, Ray LeCara. And Ray LeCara Jr., in fact, is a master's certified life coach and educational consultant. After an accomplished 3-decade career in teaching and training within traditional environments, he now wholeheartedly devotes himself to empowering individuals wishing to attain academic, professional, or personal success. As the founder of Authentic Embassy Consulting and author of Who Are You Really? The Search for Authenticity, Ray is an esteemed authority in his field. He is an award-winning corporate trainer and possesses extensive experience in working with students in diverse educational settings. Ray's adaptable approach caters to the diverse needs of learners in traditional and online classrooms across 21 countries. Let me just tell you a little bit more about Ray before I ask him to introduce himself. He is really committed, Ray LeCara is really committed to lifelong learning. He established bestfootforwardonline.org in 2015, which is an educational resource, and we'll put that in the show notes, as well as other ways to get in touch with Ray on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and at AuthenticEmbassy.com. You'll see it all in the show notes. But one of the things that he did was with this bestfootforwardonline.org in 2015, he provided a wide range of learning resources and strategies, and some of his nonfiction publications, including Best Foot Forward, a student success guide with life skills strategies for the road ahead, and Essential Study Skills, a holistic approach to learning in 2022, have empowered countless individuals seeking to enhance their abilities and achieve success. Let me tell you a little bit about Ray's personal life, and then I'll let Ray have the next words here. In his personal life, Ray indulges in fiction writing and collaborates on film projects with local directors. We'll have to ask Ray what's local. Together with his wife and executive sous chef, they call the Pacific Northwest home, sharing their lives with the beloved senior Golden Shepherd Rescue. Ray LeCara, welcome to Authentic Change with Mike Horn. You have such a lovely background, and but let's tell our audience in your own words about yourself.
My goodness, Mike, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all you do. When we talk about authenticity, when we talk about authenticity and authentic change, I think now it's such an important time to really be touching on these. So thank you so much for the stuff that you're doing and for your podcast. My goodness, I want to meet the person that you just talked about a moment ago. I'm, as you mentioned, I've been married for 20 years. I live in the Pacific Northwest. Really believe in lifelong learning. So I'm a lifelong educator, and I continue to learn. And I believe that life is really about empowering others, especially if you can help them to access their most authentic selves, because it's through that we're able to live, love, lead, and even learn profoundly.
Live, love, lead, and what was
and
it?
Learn.
And
learn.
Yeah, it's a wonderful way of constructing those 4 L's, Ray. And I describe myself as a coach, mentor, and teacher. If I think about all of my professional experiences, whether they've been in very large corporate systems or smaller sized corporate systems, or on brick and mortar campuses as a graduate school educator, even sometimes an undergraduate school educator, and as a coach to executives, particularly executives in science, technology, engineering, and sometimes mathematicians as well, who are in professional services firms. When I think about all of my experiences in that regard, all of them combine or coalesce around these descriptions of coach, mentor, and teacher. Is that what the product of a lifelong learner is?
I believe so. But each person is going to have to determine that for themselves, right? I think we have people who are already doing that, and they just don't appreciate what it is that they're already interested in. I mean, I think the internet has, and we're going to have chat GPT allow us to do this even more. AI is going to allow us to do this even more. But I think we already have people right now who are lifelong learners and just don't realize it. And it's about taking what they're already pursuing and transitioning that into those things that will have more resonance as they begin to age, or depending on where they are in terms of their life. So I think we already have that. I'm not sure if in education we're structuring or properly aligning that mindset. But I think people are already pursuing that lifelong learning. And I think we're able to do that because we have access to the internet. So you're always searching for more information. But I think for some, it's how do I make that jump from just searching for recipes or searching for clues on how to beat a game? How do I then begin to make that transition to learning how to be perhaps a better husband, or how do I a better wife, or where can I find guidance in terms of my life so that I can bring more meaning to it? So I think that mindset right there, we're almost there. It's just helping people transition to that.
Well, let's talk about that, Ray LeCara, because you describe yourself as a multifaceted coach and a strategic educator. Help our audience understand what those terms mean. When you put multifaceted in front of coach and you put strategic in front of educator, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, for strategic education, I've had the wonderful fortune of working with all age groups. I've worked with grades K and 1 all the way through adults. So it's been amazing to see how people learn and look at different things. When I was a corporate trainer, for example, working with adults, it was nobody. What's interesting is that I would turn my classroom, if you will, into that of what it would be like in an academic school. And it was amazing how people responded to that. So it's about finding those strategies that will allow people to access what they need or understand where their power is when it comes to learning anything, and finding that confidence there. When I was part of my corporate training was during the Y2K time, when there was a transition, kind of like what we're experiencing now with AI. There was a transition with the internet, and so many people didn't even have a computer, never mind know the different programs and applications that were out there. And people were quite fearful of what they didn't know. But what was amazing was being able to have them, the more honest they could be about, hey, I'm not sure about this, or based on their experience coming in and saying, okay, how can I really utilize this for where I work and for what I do? Again, what they were doing is feeling comfortable enough to be honest. And then once that is out in the open, then we can truly assess and engage and help to address what it is that they're looking to get out of that It's also, as you know, it's very similar with coaching. The big thing is helping people to first of all feel comfortable enough to make that, to dig deep, to open up, to engage in that journey. Because if we're not going to ask the questions and we're not going to be willing to kind of explore, then we're not going to find any answers, and we're going to continue to keep searching for meaning and purpose in whatever we're doing. So the realization of just really peeling back those layers and working with people, whether it's through education or through coaching, they're one and the same if you know what I was going to say if you know what you're doing, but if you know the purpose and the intent, which I think for both, to get the most meaning out of education, it's really about asking those questions. It's about being strategic, not just tactical. So what did you get out of it? What are you searching for? What is it you hope to? Why are you doing this? Why are you here? By asking those questions, we're asking the same questions really in coaching as well. It's just that we're not used to that. It's a different kind of mindset. And sometimes we don't like what we fear. I don't know enough at work, or I don't even know myself. So what am I going to do in a relationship? So we may not like the answers, but we have to start somewhere, and we start by first being authentic.
And I often thought, or was often heard an expression that learning is fun. But what I've observed as a coach, mentor, and teacher is that most learning is fraught with anxiety and guilt. And how does that relate to your, wonderful book, Who Are You Really? The Search for Authenticity?
So that was born out of watching people kind of struggle. 61% of adults consider themselves in a rut, yet only 8% of people who set goals ever achieve them. And when people go into coaching, it's a little different than teaching. When people go into coaching, it's really about bearing yourself. And it will take some time for people to feel comfortable. And that comfort level isn't even so much with the person that they're working with. That comfort level is really themselves opening up to themselves. Being able to look in the mirror and say, who is this person? And so I think at the heart of it, for me, and based on my experience, both with teaching and working with adults in the corporate environment, and then through the coaching and teaching in recent years, I really believe that it happens to be through an authentic exploration and relationship with ourselves. Because the more authentic you can be, then you're not having to try to do something or be someone that you're not. And it really touches each part of our lives. So if you want to have a meaningful relationship, that can be with family members, it can be with a romantic relationship, or even with just people at school. In order to do that, we need to be authentic. If you want to be a true leader, and by the way, a leader doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a CEO of a company. Whatever happened to lead by example. So just even as a coworker, how you handle the frustration at work, how you celebrate others around you. Being authentic is really about recognizing those things that mean something to you and then passing them on to other people and recognizing that. Same thing with learning. At all ages, why am I doing this? What's the purpose of an education? How is this going to help my situation for where I am? I think we push school to a certain extent at different age levels, but what's the purpose? And does it tap into that student's authentic self? So coming back to the book, Who Are You Really? It is a search for authenticity, and it's not a one and done. So the book is a short read if you do it from cover to cover. But if you really take each chapter and take the time to be strategic with it, and I'm not just talking about we're going to have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and work through some of the exercises. I mean, really take that time for yourself to go on that journey, because again, a lot of us like to start something and we don't necessarily finish. We get distracted, we're triggered. Life is chaotic. But if you really want to make a change and have it affect every facet of your life, it has to start first with you. And one of the first chapter is really just asking people, who are you? And sometimes we ask ourselves, are we happy? Well, that's tied in with who are you? How are you living your life? How are you showing up? How are you engaging? Are you living with intention? What happens when you get up in the morning? What is your time management like? Because you may be on a journey where a relationship may take some time to evolve, or you're working on a degree that's going to take some time. So that's okay. So each day, maybe today, I'm going to be very intentional about working towards that degree. Tomorrow, I'm going to be very intentional about working towards that relationship. As long as every day is being lived with some kind of intention, that's how we bring about authentic change. And so again, coming back to the book, I even encourage people to come back to that first chapter and ask who they are every birthday. Reflect on who you are and what has happened over the years. You're going to change, you're going to evolve. And those things that you're not necessarily pleased with, that gives you a chance to then kind of work on that. We're not all perfect. The book, by the way, as I mentioned, was born out of working with others and recognizing the frustration and comfort level, trust. I think it's also a great exercise for people who are looking to find a coach. There are some that aren't necessarily ready, so they start and then they find an excuse to stop. But this is a great way for people to articulate, hey, wait a minute, this is what I really want to do, or this is where I have questions. It helps people before they even get into coaching to perhaps find that focus, to articulate what it is they want to work on. So that's where that came from.
And tell our audience about the authentic empathy. What does that mean, and what's that all about?
Sure. Well, so my wife and I, we transitioned from the East Coast to the West Coast in 2017. I always felt somewhat restless in a way, and I've always enjoyed the teaching, the coaching, the training. I was even training teachers in the district I was in throughout the 2000s. When it comes to the embassy, authentic embassy consulting, when we moved to the West Coast, we did so with intent, and the intent was, I mean, we moved out here for family, but there was an intent that we are going to be, do, have, and give more. We felt that where we were kind of we weren't getting our return on investment. We felt in some areas we were spinning our wheels and just not getting, like I said, that return on investment. And so we were both committed, which is profound in and of itself. We were both committed, and part of that was my wife pursuing her. She's now an executive sous chef. So it was about pursuing that, supporting her in that endeavor. And then in my area, really wanting to reach out to people without a middleman, there's things that we do in education, there's things that we do where we work, but it always feels like sometimes we're trying to navigate certain areas, or we have to lead or bend a certain way. And this was a way to really reach out to people directly. And I felt I had a lifetime of already working in various areas. And it was just an opportunity to really kind of focus on those areas that mean the most to me. And that's where Authentic Embassy Consulting was born. And it was an opportunity to combine multiple things that I enjoy, and to help others find joy through that as well. So it was the teaching, it was the coaching, and I also work in other areas. Where I'll work with people who are writing, worked in film. So it's just really about helping people to, and it comes back to accessing their most authentic selves so that they can, and again, forgive me, live, love, lead, and learn profoundly.
Now, what is a life coach? I'm a coach as well as coach, mentor, teacher. Most of my clients, as we've discussed, are scientists or distinguished engineers or technologies. And our focus is professional, organizational, team. Talk about a master certified life coach, because I'm sure you touch on those areas as well.
What we're really trying to do is help people. If you come back to that, who are you? Or are you happy? What kind of a leader are you? If you come back to those types of questions, that's where a life coaching very often is going to exist. But what I have done in most recent years is I decided, especially, and that was with the culmination of the book, Who Are You Really, was to sort of find a different kind of niche, and that is in the authentic space for people before they even want to begin exploring other areas. Because what was happening is I would sit there, one of the first meetings I would have with people, the very first question I ask is, who are you? And I would say, I'm going to ask you a question that you may have been asked before. I said, it might make you uncomfortable. I said, you may not have an answer, but I know you want to do this, 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 and this. I know this is part of what you're looking for. But let me first ask you, who are you? Who is, and whatever their name is, I would ask. And there's always, it depends on sometimes the age. I've had people start tearing up right away because they'll turn around and say, I've been trying to figure this out all my life. Sometimes it's, I'm just not sure. Sometimes they have an idea, but it's not necessarily articulated in a situation. Like, for example, like when you ask somebody what they do. So what is it that you do? Oh, I teach, or I do this, or I do that. Well, wait a minute. That sounds great. But what if you were to say, I empower others to access their most authentic selves, or I bring literature to life for young people so that they can find meaning in their own? Imagine if we did that. So it's really about articulating what it is that we do and finding meaning in that. Understanding that your life, your voice, everything is really important. We just don't own up to that. And we constantly, this, the most thoughts that we have are usually negative. There's earlier programming that we have when we were younger that really sabotages us most of the time. So I am a master certified life coach, but what I have done is really begin to just focus, though, on that who are you question, because I believe that is the foundation for moving forward. And I'm more than willing to help you once it can be within 4 weeks, it can be within a 2-hour period. If you feel comfortable enough to then move on, that's fine. And I believe that people should find the coaches that specialize in areas that they're looking. I'm willing to work with anybody. But in recent years, I've moved more towards the authenticity component, finding out who you are, being able to peel back those layers and explore and examine what you're doing in your life to find what truly needs to be addressed for you to be happy, for you to find success, for you to be in that mindset where every single day there is something powerful and profound that you're getting from your existence. So yes, I'm a master certified life coach. We can address multiple areas, but I really believe that at the heart is authenticity, and that's kind of where I have narrowed my focus to.
Ray LeCara, that's wonderful. And just as a last question, just tell us a little bit about your fiction writing.
Oh, so last year I released some short story collections that had been kind of swimming around for a while. But what I realized several years back is what I was writing really. We're given so many clues. It's just, are we willing to stop for a moment, pause, and really listen to what's happening around us? So in the early 2000s, I had done a book called The Forgotten Prophecy, and I had done a YA book called Future Destiny. It's part of a Torn Timeline series. Although now it seems like a tired genre since everything's about multiple timelines. But in both of them, it really is about people accessing their most authentic selves and realizing, or searching for what is my purpose and using it in a fictional element. So The Forgotten Prophecy was sort of religious horror thriller, but that was a search also for which is more frightening, human evil or supernatural evil. But at the heart of that was really the protagonist trying to figure out who he was and what his purpose happens to be. Are we listening to the clues? Do we literally have to be bludgeoned before that's what I'm supposed to be doing? So what I didn't realize was that what I was doing was really kind of exploring these things even before I was able to articulate. And when you asked about the Authentic Embassy Consulting, when I officially started the company in 2018, I love how there are things that, we don't know what we don't know. I'd been doing some of this already since the 90s. And I was doing it as a DBA, not as an LLC. So in 2018, I essentially rebranded and made it official. But what I was learning was that through the writing and through what I was doing in teaching, what I was doing in training, all that, and the coaching was really all about helping people find their most authentic selves. And I would say that probably at the same time, I was searching for my own and exploring my own authentic self. And how can you work with others and help them achieve the same if you are not on that same journey? I mean, that's also a definition of authenticity. You're authentic.
Oh, that's really wonderful, Ray LeCara. It's been such a delight and joy to get to know you and the great work that you're up to, and to continue to explore this question of who are you really? It's just a wonderful way of thinking about things. So without any further ado, again, thank you so much, Ray LeCara. We'll have lots of links in our show notes about how to get in touch with Ray and the wonderful work that he's doing. So until the next episode of Authentic Change with Mike Horn, stay well.
Thank you for listening to the Authentic Change podcast. I'm delighted that you've tuned in to listen. Please visit the show notes for links to topics discussed in today's podcast. To download a free ebook on authentic change and leadership and to subscribe to my newsletter, please visit mike-horn.com. Once again, mike-horne.com, mike-horn.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Authentic Change podcast.